Hi, this is another flipped classroom instruction on conflict this time. And so mostly this is going to be for my freshmen, but maybe at some point in the future for some other students. Oh, look at that yet. And the first thing I want you to do is take a piece of paper out and be ready to do some writing, or you could write on your phone and we can talk about how you can get that to me later. So I want to ask you, what is something you really wanted but had a hard time getting? And then what made it difficult? So that's your 5-minute writing prompt. Think about maybe it was something to do with sports or a passion outside of school, or maybe it was even a grade in a particular class. So then you're going to pause this video, put a timer on, and write for 5 minutes. So pause. Okay, welcome back. So one of the reasons why we start with maybe a little bit of a free write along this question is to think about how conflicts exist in our normal lives, and then try to think about how we can infuse our own stories with some kind of conflict. So on the piece of paper that you're writing on, let's see if I can make this happen. Oh, you're supposed to pause the video and write for 5 minutes. I would like you to review the little story that you wrote. I hope you can read this. I can see a little glare here. You're going to review your mini story and think about yourself as the protagonist in your own story. So you're kind of getting outside of yourself and contemplating that for a couple of moments. You're the protagonist. So as the protagonist in your own story, was there an antagonist, someone who is against your particular direction, your particular path, who put up some sort of a barrier? Or perhaps the conflict was something more internal. Maybe you didn't have the courage or the motivation to continue on the path that you were aiming for. So you want to think about what distracts the protagonist from his or her particular path. And will this particular conflict have an impact on the protagonist's life? Maybe if it's like trying to get your license, you guys, well, some of you aren't quite ready there yet, but having a difficulty getting your license might be an impact in your life, because that great job that you're going to get that's part-time, you're going to have a difficult time getting there. So think about those particular components. Now, if you're able to take those questions and answer yes to any of them, maybe there's a physical antagonist who's blocking you, or there's an internal protagonist or antagonist that's blocking you, then there is some bit of conflict, even in this little 5 minutes of writing. So I want you to now take your piece of paper, or if you're typing on your phone, I would like you to write down a definition of conflict. So you may need to pause and start again so that you get all of the words, but I will put this up for a couple of seconds and then you can pause and you'll be able to write this down. This goes on the same paper. So here's a definition of, it's a literary definition of conflict. Don't need to copy this, but you put everything that's in the quotations. Literary conflict is primarily about the clashing of one person's desires with his or her faults, the desires of others, and the circumstances surrounding them. So take a moment to write that down. While you're doing that, I'll show you the cat that's bothering me. Hey, this is our spirit cat. Nobody ever gets to see her. This is Sadie. Hi. She's a little wound up. Okay, and then the last piece, I want you to think about, why is it helpful for a novel to have an interesting conflict? So I want this to be the third thing that you write on your piece of paper or your phone, and she's going to take the fabric off. So think about why it's helpful to have a novel that has an interesting conflict. Think about the stories or the movies or the books that you've read, and conflict creates something interesting. It makes you want to go forward and keep turning pages and find out more about what's going on. So when you have everything all written for this evening, make sure you bring that in with you, or if you're using your phone, you can send it to my school email. If you're using Google Docs, please use my Gmail address, which I will put also into the little field down below. I'll put both of my email addresses into the comments, right before the comments area, additional information. And of course, this relates to those of you writing your own novel, that conflict is going to be interesting to write about and interesting for others to read. And that's what kind of makes a story. Otherwise, it's just sort of a sketch of some sort. So you can use this information and try to think about how you might incorporate some more conflict, or maybe start to try to map out what your different conflicts are. When we think about that plot diagram, I like to think about sort of two problems that the main character or protagonist has that shows his or her weakness or difficulty. We have a little minor problem that kind of hints, then a bigger problem, this is in the rise in action, and then the climax is the piece where that weakness or that problem is really highlighted, and that's that conflict. Conflict is starting to go up the side of the plot diagram and then hits its big mark at the top, and then we find out whether the character is going to be successful or is possibly not successful in this particular journey. Definitely, if you have any questions, please let me know, and please make sure you're prepared to bring this with you tomorrow, and I will see you with more writing and exciting adventures for your stories. Thanks for watching.